Catholic social teaching, one of the things I want to do here in the parish is really start to help people kind of become aware of it. Like, why do we go to Pine Street all the time? Pine Street Inn. Why do we work with people who are homeless? Why do we go to Boston Healthcare for the homeless? Why take care of kids and go over to Nativity Prep, the Jesuit school, where they get that free education from 4th grade on, and then they get into high school, because these kids, we got to take care of each other, you know what I mean? And we have a responsibility to pass on that education in those ways. And I think, the gospel motivates us to do this, but most of the time, we don't even know that we get this great gift of Catholic social teaching, which, there's like 7 themes in the Catholic Church that kind of tell us, hey, we gotta be aware that we can have a belief in God, love God, worship God, but that love of God has to get translated in the way that we love each other.
Right.
So, even last week's gospel, that whole thing of like, hey, teacher, what's the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then the second's like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And the two of them are the foundation for all the rules, all the regulations, the laws, the prophets, And the Catholic Church has done a really good job in coming up with these themes, if you will. But I don't know how good of a job we've done in getting them out there so that they're in people's psyches, they're in our spirits, and we see them as these guiding principles that kind of inform us to live out the gospel.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about Catholic social teaching until I went on the first trip with Young Neighbors in Yakima, Washington. So. Yeah.
Do you remember? I'm trying to think of like what some of these. Well, the first one actually I remember well, and that was the life and dignity of the human person. Key, like it's the foundation for any good works to come from. Like every single person has dignity. Have you driven up Mass Ave lately? And you go by Boston Medical Center, Melnia Cass Boulevard, and it's like, you see all these people, and they're just like addicted, and it's bad, and it looks like people are zombies. They're stuck there, or they're not moving, and you just see them going after these cigarette butts, and it's so easy to make a judgment, right? You're sitting in traffic, you're like, oh my God. But the opioid crisis is like an equal opportunity destroyer, right? I mean, you work in this all the time, Natasha. It's like every person is a person before they're, a junkie or an addict. It's a human being. This was somebody's kid, right? And any one of us can get caught up in this. We could have the best education, the most money, even be loved beyond belief. It's an equal opportunity destroyer.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from. And that's why I love that one in particular, life and dignity, right? We all have dignity, no matter what we're going through.
Yeah. I need to be reminded of it because every once in a while, I'm lacking in recognizing that, if I get ticked off at something, or you react and you forget this is a person, this is a human being.
Right.
The person who's homeless. I try not to be saying all the time like, oh, the homeless or the addicts. I was like, the guy who's homeless, the person, and then that person has a name, and you find out the name, and then all of a sudden it's about a relationship, and you're brought into the situation in a whole different way. You interact in a way that's like, it's more dignified. I always got to be reminded of that, because sometimes you can even get burnt out in all of these things.
Right.
Fatigue of compassion fatigue, if you will. Pray to God that never happens, but I think when we lose sight of the dignity of the person, The other thing too is, once we have that as a foundation, I think that the Catholic Church builds the house on social teaching from that foundation.
Right.
So, from that, just trying to think here to refresh my mind, life and dignity of the human person, and then there's the call to family, community, and participation, like whether it's in our city, in our parish, in the church. Then there's the dignity and worth of work.
Right.
How many people they're doing these jobs that stink, man, and they're challenging, and then you got to work 2 or 3 jobs, and you're not even making it anymore, and you're getting paid peanuts. However, we can spend more than people are even making to keep a family going. Right. Then there's rights and responsibilities. Like every person has a right. Every human being, no matter who it is, and we have all these immigration issues, right? How people get into the country, and how they take off the system and all that kind of stuff. As we work out those huge, complicated and complex issues, my question is like, how are we doing that in the right way, in light of the gospel, with compassion, recognizing every person is a human being with dignity. You don't just rip families apart, but like, it's such a complex thing. And the dialogue in our politics and our government gets so black and white that people fall through the cracks, and then they get dumped on, and systems just keep them down. It's really tough. But Catholic social teaching like addresses all that stuff on those levels.
And it all goes back to that dignity.
It does.
Dignity, that foundation.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the other one. Solidarity. We got to be in solidarity with each other, and we are our brothers and sisters keepers on so many levels. And will there be people who take advantage of the system and learn it? Absolutely.
Right.
But guess what? That doesn't mean you stop the system, or we stop doing this
or we stop caring for people.
Stop caring.
Right.
There is a preferential option for the poor and the vulnerable. Right. Doesn't mean God loves people who are poor more than people who are rich. Right. But you look at all the scriptures as to who Jesus went to in the margins, right? Who he lifted up and reminded those who had power and money and influence. We got to take care of these. That's a preferential option that God has.
Right.
I
and
don't
the
know.
Pope has made that his platform, hasn't he? About the poor.
Yeah, he has. And it's good for me too, after doing this 25 years, being a priest for 25 years, it's like all of us, it's, you're a cop or a firefighter for 25 years, or a politician or a teacher or a therapist,
right.
Or you're in a relationship or a marriage, it's really easy to get kind of tired and take each other for granted or things for granted, or just put it on autopilot. And it's about being ever fresh and ever new. And when he came on the scene, when the Pope was elected, I saw that as such the work of the Spirit. Not that the other popes weren't the work of the Spirit at all. You know what I mean? But like at this time in history, reminding us we've got to take care of each other. I mean, I look at how I live in the parish or in the city right now, and it's like stuff that I could take for granted, but I don't. I'm like, it's pure gift. And you know what? If I'm going to go to bed in a bed with a warm room and a roof, and be able to use a real clean toilet, and not have to go in an alley someplace, you know what? I have the responsibility, we all do, to be with and accompany folks who can't do that. So, and I always wrestle with, am I doing enough? I don't know if you ever think about that.
I think about that all of the time. Sometimes I get caught up in that, and you see someone who's homeless and you give, and then sometimes you wonder, should I be giving to everybody, or how do I give to everybody? Right. What do I do?
Where's that money going? Like, are they going to get a cup of coffee, or are they going to put it in their arm? Right. But even the Pope said, you know what? And I know there are going to be people who disagree with this, but like, just give. How much do we spend on stuff that, is the proverbial putting into our arm?
Right. Yes.
Not in a guilt way, but like just all the stuff that we have, our entertainment, or how we can just whip through money like it's nothing, whether we have it or we don't have it. And it's just like, you know what? Jesus said, give to those who ask. And I've become more aware of that. Like, are you stingy? I love this word, parsimonious.
Parsimonious.
Cheap. Are we cheap in giving to people? Because we make this judgment, like, I know what you're going to use this for, or why don't you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, or get a job, or you're the detritus of. Are you kidding? Like, all this stuff that goes into through our minds, all those judgments, are the exact things that I think Jesus talks about when he says, "Why are you thinking these things?" Remember when Mary Magdalene, she was washing his feet with her hair and washing with her tears and they're like, if you knew what kind of person she was, you wouldn't let this do. And he was just like, what are you kidding me? Why do you have these thoughts? She belongs at this table with all of us. She gets it. Talk about Catholic social teaching, without even, before the Catholic Church was even the Catholic Church. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's the model. It reminds me of the end of the year's coming up. Liturgical year, as we mentioned earlier, and at the end of this month, the last Sunday, Christ the King is Matthew 25. It's a great motivator. In the end, separate the sheep from the goats, so to speak. And who are those? You know, the ones that, you know, took care of people, went out into the margins, judged less and loved more, fed, visited in prison, you know, whether it's a real live prison, South Bay, or if it's the prison of addiction, and you just try to stay in that game as best you could, you know, with your own safety, you know, being taken into consideration, but like, you know, who's in prison with depression and all these things, right? Like, and Jesus said, when you do this to the least of my sisters and brothers, you're doing it for me. And when you didn't do it, you know, you didn't do it for me. You know, when did we see you that way? We were, when you did it for them. And so that's that motivational call, right? And I think Catholic social teaching is really born out of that. Like, everybody's got that dignity.
Yeah. And I think the more people know about the Catholic social teaching, the easier it'll be for them to realize those things and do those things with people.
Yeah. I see so many churches trying to live that out. You know, they give these opportunities for folks to be involved and to give them. People are so generous, so really good and loving. You know, I see parents, you know, having their kids be exposed. Let's come down to Pine Street Inn, you know, and let's serve a meal. Let's cook and serve a meal for the guests, not the homeless, for the guests. You know, let's go to Boston Healthcare for the homeless and just be with folks in that beautiful place in the messiness of human life where all of these things intersect. You know, it's just it's, I don't know, it's powerful. I think too, with people's goodness and trying to live out this message, it's like St. Francis says, it happens less with words and more by action, right? What does he say? Preach the gospel always, and if necessary, use words.